What's wrong with you? You don't look like that. You gotta be normal. Hey guys, I'm Maddie.
What's up guys, I'm Chase.
And today we're gonna be talking to you about MCAT studying and MCAT resources.
Let's get into it. So the first question you gotta ask yourself is, when are you going to start studying? I think this is one of the most overlooked things that most people think about or don't think about. You want to be able to push your studying out as far as you feel comfortable, but not too far, because there really is a peak that you're going to reach, and once you hit the peak, you'll go downhill. That was one of our problems, is we studied too much, and we actually saw our results start falling in the final month. So about 3 months, I think, is the Goldilocks zone. We studied for almost 6 months. And those last 2 months, I mean, our scores were dropping. Like, I dropped almost 10 points in my final month because I feel like I got too much tunnel vision in in studying. So
yeah, I think that if you can pace yourself though, like we started studying January of our junior year, and we were studying so hard. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, more than we were studying for school.
Yeah, like we basically completely forgot about school and only studied for the MCAT, and it was awful. And I think that that's why. So I think maybe just pace yourself, study a little bit each day, and then in that month prior to taking your test, really hit it hard, and you should be fine.
Yeah. We'll talk about this more, but the MCAT is so much more strategy-based than material-based. There really isn't too much of a reason to know everything. I mean, it's really how can you take the test is what's going to do it for you. 6 months of studying knowledge, that's really not going to help you. 3 months is probably the best amount of time. And also keep in mind, when are you going to apply to medical school? So we took our MCAT on June 2nd, and then we applied to med school the day the application opened. That's a huge thing. We've talked about this in other videos. Make sure that you submit your application the day the application's open.
Regardless of if you have your MCAT score or not. We did not have our MCAT score, but we just submitted it anyways and hope for the best. I know that that was a big mental block for me. I was literally crying to my dad at my kitchen counter, like full-blown sobbing with my hands in my face in my hands.
Yeah.
And he knows nothing about medicine, and he's like, just apply anyways. Like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? You will get denied and you apply again, and that's what you're worried about anyways. So just apply the first time, and we ended up getting accepted to plenty of schools, and my dad was right. So
yeah, I mean, like she said, worst thing, you don't get accepted, but if you hold off, you may not get accepted. So I mean, just apply, shoot your shot and see what happens.
Yeah, the best case scenario, I mean, they're gonna see your application and they're just gonna put it in a hold pile, get your MCAT score, and if they really liked you anyways, they're probably gonna offer you an interview.
Right. So the next thing that we want to talk about is content review. So we just kind of hit on it about the knowledge-based portion of the MCAT. I think that you should self-study. This is my biggest tip. If you're going to take anything away from this, think about what I'm saying. Self-studying, I think, is the best thing that you can do. If you,
I think that applying as soon as possible is your number one thing, but in regard to the MCAT, self-studying for sure.
Yeah. Like, we took a course, and it was expensive. We got like this premium level course where I spent $2,000. Maddie spent $3,000 on a course, and honestly, we hated it. We hated every moment of it.
It was horrible.
Biggest waste of money.
It just killed our morale. It made us really just despise our lives. We were miserable. It was awful.
Yeah, we had a tutor who I think was useless. That was basically what the money went towards, was paying for this tutor, and this tutor didn't know anything. So that's another point. For the material that you're going to use, don't use your class notes. Your class notes are for class. They're not for the MCAT. They're two different realms. Use resources like Khan
Academy.
Khan Academy is huge for YouTube. There's other people that do YouTube channels just for the MCAT. Watch those videos for the strategy and some of the content. And then I think that you should have a set of content books, like the Princeton books or the Kaplan books, or there's other books out there, just to use as a reference. Some people may want to read those books cover to cover twice or 3 times. I don't think that's needed.
It's just nice to have a reference. Like I'm really bad at physics and OChem, or I don't really understand them very well, especially after I took the class, and just being able to go back and see the highlights and none of the fluff. So just like the bare bones, what you need to know, how you need to know it. There's little mnemonics and like fun brain things to like help lock it in your head.
Another resource is one that I don't know if I've ever heard anyone use. I didn't learn about this until we got to med school. It's a resource called Free Medtube. They have a lot of medical school stuff, but they also have a section on there for pre-med stuff. They basically have any program you could ever think about put onto this website. I don't know if it's legal, to be honest, but like it's worked. We've used it for the last year. They have question banks.
Police don't come after us.
I mean, I don't think we can get in trouble. Who knows? But it has question banks on there that they have all the question banks. They have videos from all the sources. So if you do want to do a program where you're going to spend $1,000 to have like a tutor and stuff, this is another reason not to get it, because they have all of that stuff that you can get for free. And we use it literally every day.
So how I think that you guys should actually study is practice questions. That's how we study in medical school. That's how you guys are going to study in medical school. So you might as well get a jump on it. I know that that's what our program was really good for, was providing us with practice questions. But the fact of the matter is that you can get these practice questions anywhere. Like you can just purchase them by themselves. So Princeton Review, Kaplan, UWorld, which is also a medical school resource. They all have practice questions. AAMC has like 4 or 5 practice exams.
I think so.
Yeah, like, are they full length?
They're full length, yeah.
Yeah, so you can go through untimed if you want to, or timed. It's fantastic. And then all of those, after you look at them, once you're finished taking the test, they have a review. So they have explanations for all the answers, why the correct one is correct and why the incorrect ones are incorrect, and then more information if you want them.
So spend the majority of your studying doing a practice problem, looking at the answers. They don't all have to be timed. I prefer untimed questions. That's just my personal preference. As they get closer to like our step 1, which is equivalent to the MCAT at the undergraduate level and the graduate level, is you'll start doing more timed problems, so you can incorporate that into your study plan. But just do questions. As many questions as you can do, that's directly correlated with your score. So just really hammer questions in. Speaking of question banks, my favorite is UWorld. I didn't know this was a question bank for the MCAT.
I think it's new.
Is it new?
For the MCAT, yeah.
Well, regardless, UWorld is the gold standard. It's the pinnacle of question banks for the med school level. So I'm sure that they do the same exact thing for the MCAT level. They're just phenomenal questions. It's as close to reality as you can get, except maybe the AAMC questions, because those are written by the AAMC.
Yeah, so definitely save AAMC. Maybe do like use those as your real practice exam, like simulations. So like do a half length or do a full length a couple of times and use the AAMC as that. So that way it looks the same and you get kind of the same vibe.
One thing that our program that we used did, which I was not a fan of, is they made us take a full length every other day, and then the day in between we spent reviewing those questions.
For a month.
For a whole month. So we ended up taking
like 19 practice.
I think overall we took 19 or 20 full length practice tests. It was horrible. It burned you out.
Yep.
I was contemplating not applying to med school because I just hated it.
We were angry all the time. I was crying every other day at least.
It wasn't fun.
It was awful. I don't think that you need to do that many full length practice exams. Maybe one, maybe. Half lengths are totally fine.
Yeah. I would personally do at least 3 or 4 full lengths.
Spread out throughout
yeah,
like 6
months.
There's no need to do it.
3 months if that's the program you're doing. But like 3, just to make sure that you have the stamina. I mean, if you can do 3 full lengths, you can do 19 full lengths, and you can do the real full length. I mean, you don't need to do 19, you don't need to do 20.
Yeah, it just gets you in the sense like how much water can I drink, how much do I need to eat in my breaks, like timing your breaks and whatnot. I know That's kind of a strategy. You can opt out of taking your breaks during the MCAT. We took full advantage of our breaks. I highly recommend taking full advantage. But I remember sitting in the room prior to our MCAT, and this girl was like, I'm plowing straight through, I'm not stopping. And she literally didn't stop for like 6.5 hours.
I wouldn't recommend that.
No, don't do that.
Some people do that. I mean, if that's how your brain works, go for it. If you can just get in like that level of geniusness and run with it, then run with it. But that's not how
No, and that's not how we practiced either. I needed the snacks, I needed the bathroom breaks.
Yeah. And then using a program or not. So like we said, we hated our program. We know Kaplan and Princeton are like the two main programs that you can use. And then there's some med schools have their own programs.
We used Altius. We don't recommend it. We can make another video on that.
Yeah.
We strongly do not recommend it for a multitude of reasons. But we really don't recommend taking any courses because we feel that your money can be used better elsewhere and your time can be better utilized.
Yeah.
Our thoughts for this are that you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses, and if you don't, you'll figure it out pretty quickly. Yeah. And the programs tend to focus on more so your strengths, I feel like.
I feel like it focuses on everything.
Yeah.
So like for example, we were both pre-medicine majors. That was our degree. It says that on our diploma. And then my minor, I had two minors, biology and chemistry.
And mine was biology and psychology.
So obviously, Maddie knew psychology and biology well. I knew biology and chemistry well. So those sections were my highest scoring sections.
Yeah.
So I didn't need to spend, 50% of my time studying those. I needed to spend 15% of my time studying those.
Yeah.
And my weakest section was CAR and psych. So I needed to study more time on those. But my program forced me into studying everything equally.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make sense. I mean, if you shouldn't study your strengths the same amount you study your weaknesses.
No. So we, I think that you should self-study and spend your money on lots and lots of question banks and a good set of books because that's what's going to help you the most. For our school, actually, the highest scores every year were the people who self-studied.
Yep. And
the highest people in our medical school class, the people who scored the highest on the MCAT in our medical school class also self-studied.
Yeah, so I think that's the trend. Mm-hmm. If you self-study, you're probably going to do better.
Yeah.
If you aren't, dedicated enough and you need a study plan, then make your own study plan and get a study buddy and study that way. But
yeah, there's tons of programs that you can find, or not programs, like study schedules that you can find online. You can also see like what Kaplan's course is and then just copy that. Additionally, there are smaller courses that can teach you strategies, but again, you can find all of this stuff on YouTube for free. So save your money. The application process is expensive. So save your money for that, spend it where it's going to matter the most and get you the furthest.
Yeah, apply to more med schools. If you're gonna save money, if you're like stressed about money, apply to more med schools. There's so many schools in the United States. Apply to more schools if that's what you're worried about. Don't spend $2,000 or $3,000 on a course. It's just lighting your money on fire.
Also, the MCAT is only one portion of your application. I know that pre-med advisors like to hammer into you that the MCAT is the end-all be-all, and if you don't score well, you're not going to get in. That's not true. You can't, you do need to do well, but
you need to do okay.
You need to do well. You need to do okay. And if you are an overall good applicant, you will be fine. You can spend your time killing your personal statement. You can spend your time really preparing your application and not spending thousands of dollars.
Some med schools weigh the MCAT and the personal statement at the same level.
Yeah.
So if you're going to spend 6 months of dedicated 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week studying for it, your personal statement can be worth the same amount.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. There's people in our med school that scored less than a 500, like in the low 490s. I don't think it matters that much as long as you do
your
okay.
best. Yeah.
Don't stress.
Don't stress about it. It's not worth your mental health.
Yeah. So take a break after this YouTube video and go watch a movie and eat popcorn.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's all we have. So thanks for watching. Obviously, like and subscribe. It really helps us out. And we'll see you later.